Hey, what's up, everybody? What's happening? So, yeah, man, I had said in the Patreon in Fractal 216, the newest paper that we produce, that the importance of these mound structures, they're part of a big global pyramid complex, and their locations are precisely where they are on purpose. For two reasons. One, there's a certain resonance, there's a certain energy that's around, especially when it's by water. And this is interesting because all on the perimeter right here is a quarry, a lake where you get certain limestones and stuff from and whatnot. And they don't exist everywhere and whatnot. So this one is literally next to a quarry. But there's a certain energy that's with these places. And then the second reason is they point to another location that's a part of the pyramid complex. I don't know what this one particularly points to, but again, it's a certain energy that's here. So anyway, I want to have a conversation with you about, in the beginning was the Word, along with, Genesis, with this whole, creation story, right? And so, in the New Testament, we hear in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word is God, or God is the Word, actually, right? And then in the Old Testament, it's like, and God said, let there be light, and God said, and God said. So then the question could be raised, well, where's the thought at? How in the beginning is the Word? Where was thought, right? Well, in Hebrew, where it says, and God said, that word could also mean think, okay? A thought. In the Greek, logos, we identified that logos means a computation, but a computation of what? It'll tell you with the etymology of that word as well that it's a word that has a meaningful thought. So in other words, a word that expresses an image. A word that expresses an image. Now, in the Old Testament, when it says, and God said, that's synonymous for thinking, right? So imagine it said, and God thought about light, and then light became, right? That would have been totally different. Like, oh, wow. But I'm cool with said, because maybe there's something else we should look into, right? Now, in science, well, in Genesis, it talks about in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. And the earth was without form. It was formless and it was a void, right? Okay. So some of the definitions for formless means confusion. Question: how can there be confusion in something that has no form? Right? So then the word for void is said to mean empty. Okay? So when you're dealing with emptiness, then you're dealing with, in science, it's called a vacuum. But here's the thing with science. That science will tell you that we live in an almost perfect vacuum. Almost. Okay? So science will tell you that we live in a almost perfect vacuum, right? Okay. A vacuum is something that has, a perfect vacuum don't have no particles. Okay, that doesn't exist in the universe, a perfect vacuum. But a perfect vacuum would be even when there's little particles that doesn't have enough pressure where the particles itself, they don't mess up the current empty state. In other words, they're not doing anything to create anything. There's like no motion with them, right? so it can remain basically a void, okay? But what happens is these particles, because you have cosmic radiation, gravity, stardust, you have these particles, right? They take on what's called a gravitational collapse. And when that happens, then we start to get different astral bodies in space, galaxies, stars, things of that nature, okay? So then I raised the question, I'm like, man, what if the beginning of Genesis is actually talking about a story, a scientific story of the vacuum, the emptiness and void in space, and how things become condensed into reality. But remember, there's absolutely no perfect vacuum. There's no such thing as a void, 100% emptiness. It don't exist. So science will tell you an atom is 99.9999999.8% empty. See? So even that 0.00000002 is you and I, is matter. So there is no complete emptiness. And really Genesis is telling us this because guess what? The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. So there's an active activity inside of darkness. So this is why I'm saying, really, we should get rid of the phrase nothing, the void, emptiness, in a sense, especially when you come over to the Kabbalah. They try to tell you that the highest world above the tree of life is Ein, nothingness. There's no such thing as that. What you can say is darkness, that's fine. What you can say is a state of rest, that's fine. A primordial beginning where, as science says, in the vacuum, the particles that exist, the pressure is so low that it is not creating, or it's not creating something. It's not creating activity because the pressure is so low. So we can say that's the beginning, that's fine. But you really cannot say nothing. Genesis shows that, and science shows that. Yeah, you're 99.999 all the way, almost 100% empty space in the cosmos and within far as atoms, but you're not empty. So you can't say that. You understand? Okay. So now, what is it about the word? And why not thought? What's going on? Don't words express thought? Yes. So when you see the definition again for like logos in the Greek, in the beginning was the word and the word was God, that's a word that has an image attached to it, meaningfulness, right? Same thing with in Hebrew, you know, okay, all right, this has to be this it's a word, but it's also a thought. So we know that words are an expression of thought, okay? Watch this. When you're dealing with energy, pure energy, energy exists in the form of waves. Yes? Okay. The most densest wave, or the starting point of a wave. I don't want to talk about high and low because in our psychology we can say, well, that's low level when it ain't good. That ain't what I'm saying. The starting point of a wave is radio waves. Look into that. Radio waves. Sound waves is the starting point of the wave. So this frequency of a wave is slower. So it's a slower frequency, which we would call a lower frequency. Lower don't mean bad, okay? So I said, oh, so in the beginning was the word, and God said, they're talking about the first measurement of the wave, which is a radio wave. And then as the wave increases in frequency, all frequency really is the repetition, the oscillation of the wave. So if it goes long and slow, it's like, oh, you're just at 2 beats per minute. If you go fast, you're at 20 beats per minute, higher vibration. So frequency is all about the repetition of the vibration. That's all frequency is, okay? So now, as the radio wave in the beginning was the word, the sound wave, as that starts to pick up, then you start to come into infrared, right? Meaning you can start, things have an energy signature. You can feel the heat off of them. And then you start to move into what? The visible spectrum of light. So in the beginning was the word, the radio wave, and as the wave continues to oscillate and vibrate faster, you now come into visibility. So when God said, let there be light, that's the first thing. God created the heavens and the earth, woo, 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 woo. But the first aspect of creation, they said, is what? Let there be light. You see? So I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, man, these dudes are, pretty ingenious in a sense, right? So let there be light in a sense. So just a little food for thought. What if this Bible is, in this particular story, is talking about pretty much quantum physics, waves, science. And I'm a big fan of Joe Dispenza, and I gotta say it the way he said. Science is the contemporary language of mysticism. Meaning there should never be a discrepancy between science and spirituality. There should never be a discrepancy between right brain and left brain. But the mystics, as we go, into the mystical schools and whatnot, science should be able to validate this. All right, I'm gonna do a video on this one guy. What's his name? Steven. I forget his last name. He was on Joe Rogan, but he's on another show, I think Piers Morgan show, and he was talking about this whole universe has a design. There is an intelligent mind that created it, and he sets out to prove this. And I'm like, an intelligent mind that created the universe, duh. The Hermetic science says all is mental. That's the first law. So once again, science, from this doctor's standpoint, is about to validate a spiritual standpoint. You see? So science is the contemporary language of mysticism. I'm a big fan of that as well. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna take a time out really to connect with this battery that's behind me. As I put in the paper Fractal 216, I put a map, and y'all can Google image this stuff. Native American mound maps in America, something like that. Find your local battery, the closest one to you. Frequent this place, and this is where you get your meditation on. This is where you really synchronize with the cosmic energies. This is where you really get it in with the moon. You know what I mean? As I showed in Fractal 216, that's a very important piece of the puzzle here and whatnot. Especially if you can get to these places at nighttime, which this thing is just, ain't no gates here, no nothing and whatnot. So a beautiful thing, but tap into this energy, because this is, to me, this is almost better than, it is to me, it's better than building a pyramid out of limestone. They're built out of the earth energies and whatnot. Okay, so tap into these energies, man. Find one that is absolutely closest to you, and go and do your meditation and your visualizations, because that's real prayer. Do your visualizations and your prayer from a magnetic battery. It's already elevated, so now the energy goes up and you start to see the point. So these are, earth pyramids. Do your thing, okay? All right, man, I'll talk to y'all. Peace out. So this is the top view, and then you got your quarry right there. And give you a back view. This thing is big. See, the question is, do the planets, bing, do they happen to rotate directly over this center? That's the observation. But anyways, you can see people come up here, sit down and whatnot. But yeah, this is the view. So I'll tap in with y'all later.